Hi, folks. This is Liliana Gutierrez, North America Enablement. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a topic that you'll find not only very interesting, but very applicable to your territory. Customers, as you know, are looking at social. They're very engaged, and we need to be out there with them to understand the territory, look for new prospects, especially for HPC, where you're going outside of the usual folks to look for decision makers and prospects. And Wes Schoferty, who uses all kinds of tools and strategies, is going to share with you how best to approach LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, and other tools that you have available to you today as you cover your territory. Wes, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Liliana. Well, my name is Wes Schoferty, and I'm an open source database and high-performance computing sales strategist for North America. I also have a strong background in social media strategy. And I'm here today to introduce you to a new way of doing things, a new way of attacking your territory, and a new way of starting exploratory business discussions with your customers. So for the agenda today, I just want to kind of touch on a few things. One, introduce myself. I have a background in IBM social media sales strategy. I did my dissertation on IBM social media sales strategy, worked with researchers from Duke and Rutgers to develop some things for the brand over the years, and done some consulting on the side. And I kind of want to share some of these tools, tips, and tricks that I've picked up over the years with you to help increase your sales results. So, again, as Liliana kind of hinted, we're going to talk about some new apps and some new plugins that you can use to help find customer contacts and to help make yourself more relevant. Our competitors are already doing this today. So if this is relatively new to you, now's the time to get on board. Why should I care? At the end of the day, as salespeople, that's something that we always ask ourselves. And, what I plan to do today is help show you some ways to save you time, to amplify your sales efforts, and help you make more money. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, again, I'm going to show you a new approach, and that's going to involve LinkedIn. It's going to involve LinkedIn Sales Navigator, HG Data, Google Chrome Email Hunter, and our new BlueMind tool. I'll ask that any questions we save towards the end. I'll have checkpoints throughout, but just to maintain consistency and flow, let's just hold the most general questions towards the end of the presentation. So, what if I told you I had a crystal ball that would allow for you to make yourself relevant and already kind of fast forward to, say, 2, 3, 4 meetings ahead in speaking to a net new customer? That would be game-changing. At least that's how I view it. One of the big challenges that we have is, cold calling, as we know it, is effectively dead. And customers don't want to take a lot of time to catch us up on what they've been doing in the past and what their pain points are and what they're running in-house. And truth be told, depending on which customer you might be speaking to, they may not necessarily know what a different business unit or line of business might be doing. So it sometimes makes it challenging as a salesperson to find the right contact. Because what we're finding more and more is that we're having to branch out to different lines of business, different decision makers, and people that are chasing down different initiatives, outside of the traditional database folks that we know and love. So one of the things that I want to kind of walk you through is how can you craft your messaging and how can you use these tools to come up with dialogue that helps get customers excited and interested and really make them want to take your call. So here's an example for high-performance computing, and I kind of joked that, I did some research before I got here. So one of the tools I'm going to teach you about a little bit later is HG Data. HG Data is a very unique tool in that you simply download this free application. IBM has paid for licensing for all its employees. And frankly, after working with HG Data for some time last year, IBM ended up acquiring their data set and including that into our BlueMind tool. And I'll cover that a bit later. But the net is that this tool allows for you to go in and see the customer's complete software stack before you've even picked up the phone to talk to them. And that's incredibly powerful because it allows for you to anticipate what some of the challenges or pain points the customer might be facing today. So as an example, from the last slide, we saw that Department of Energy is running ESRI, which is a geospatial GIS application. And the net is that, how can we plan ahead? So just knowing that they have that in-house, we also know that Kinetica is really giving ESRI a real run for their money. So that might be a potential way we get in. We also noticed from the chart that we would be competing against Amazon for off-premise cloud solutions. So we have to think about which workloads are they going to keep in-house, which workloads are mission critical, which workloads are best fit for what we're trying to sell and speak to the customer about. And also in looking through the HG data drop-down, we see that they have HP hardware quite a bit, Oracle 11G, Apache Hadoop, Spark, Hive, Pig, Kafka, Storm, HBase, and all these are heavily adopted in the account. So, I guess the question that the customer might like to hear from IBM is how can we potentially optimize the data workflow in this environment, speed things up, streamline processes, save them time, money, headache, so on. The other thing to think about is what offerings do we have that feed into this existing install base, things that complement, things that would replace. What's the dynamic of offerings that we have relative to what the customer has in-house today? And then, again, asking yourself, how can you craft, impactful messaging to take forth to that customer that's likely to, raise an eyebrow and, help encourage them to take your sales call. So, based on the install base that we saw on the previous slide, we can kind of already start to net out that the customer probably has some challenges like the following examples here. So, one would be complexity. Partitioning is a huge issue. Getting information in and out of the right tools in a timely fashion can be an issue. Performance is always a challenge. With Oracle 11G, for instance, customers oftentimes find themselves throwing a lot of hardware at their data lake, and it barely moves the needle in terms of performance. Maybe there's some something in this area where we can impact the customer's bottom line. Another common challenge is customers having skill gaps in-house and trying to figure out how to circumvent some of these challenges or how to streamline some of these processes so they're not having to take on as much headcount and deal with quite as many resource-related issues. So, here's just a few examples of the types of things that you might, kick off a conversation with a customer, right? So, based on the software stack that we saw, maybe a leading question would be asking them, have they started considering GPU-accelerated database solutions? Are they thinking about AI? Advanced business intelligence, is that something that's an initiative for them right now? Have they tried some of these, and are they having challenges with them? Have they tried exploring new options with analytic tools, and they just didn't perform quite as advertised? These types of questions can really start a great open dialogue and allow for you to really dig in and figure out how you can provide the most value for this client. And again, based on the fact that we have a laundry list of things that they're already running in-house, we can kind of anticipate, again, where some of their challenge areas are and kind of tie that back to complementary offerings that we have. So for this example, I have Cognos 10, but depending on what you're trying to sell, that could be IBM Power Servers, it could be one of our ISV solutions, it could be IBM Storage, it could be any number of things. But what I would ask is that you just try to be open-minded and think outside the box a little bit as to how you can kind of connect the dots. So moving on, and I'll breeze right through this, these are the links that you're going to need to go to in order to get Google Chrome, Email Hunter, HG Data set up on your system. Internally, we'll have links to Bluemine and other customer intelligence tools that you'd be able to leverage to get some additional information. So one of the other tools that is very important I want to touch on is Google Chrome Email Hunter. So Google Chrome Email Hunter has plugins into LinkedIn. And what these plugins do, it effectively allows for Google to run some analytics and come up with a confidence interval as to what a contact's real work email address is. So for this example, I went through a company and found some leaders in that company that I might like to reach out to for a sales opportunity. And, these particular customers I am connected with. However, it works whether you're connected with that customer on LinkedIn or not. You'll notice in the top left a small orange box under Joseph Craven's name, and that is actually the Google Chrome Email Hunter app sitting inside of your LinkedIn browser. Moving along, once you've identified who the contacts are, based on their job title, who they are in the company, who they might report to, based on your understanding of the structure or maybe an org chart that you've seen, you can kind of gauge, who you need to talk to about what. So for this particular, example, I crafted an email for this particular customer based on some things that I saw from their main website, their main landing page, and going through HG data and kind of coming up with content or topics that I thought might touch kind of close to home and help pique interest. So again, I can't stress this enough that going into the fight armed with information will prevent you from walking away with a black eye. In sales, we've all called on customers, and sometimes it can kind of be like a real shot in the dark because you don't necessarily know what all their pain points might be in advance. You don't necessarily know the ins and outs of things in the account. Maybe it's politics, maybe it's things in their IT ecosystem or what have you. But the idea is that by arming yourself with information up front, you're making yourself much more relevant. You're going to save yourself an awful lot of time as well as the customer. You can help the customer look good to their boss by bringing up new technologies that maybe they hadn't considered yet. It helps you to build credibility with your customer and help to further build rapport because rather than cold calling and kind of phishing, you can have a more targeted approach. So think of this more as a rifle shot as opposed to a shotgun blast, if you will, right? So and adopting this methodology will really help you to further penetrate accounts because, again, you're more relevant. You've built some rapport and credibility based on the fact that you're already familiar with their environment, and you can kind of skip to some more advanced discussions, which will help expedite the sales process. So you might be asking yourself, wait a minute, did you just tell me, Wes, that I can now find customer contacts and their real work email addresses without even knowing them? I can track down new line of business customers within the account that I may not be familiar with. And I can get information about their hardware and software stack before I even pick up the phone or reach out to them via email? Well, yes, and then I know this sounds too good to be true. And you might be asking yourself, why have I not heard about this before? Well, this is relatively new stuff that we developed last year. And again, we were so impressed with it that we actually integrated the HG data set into our BlueMind tools because we found that the information was between 96 and 98% accurate, which is pretty incredible. So, why are we having to adapt to this new way of doing business? The buying process has changed. What we're finding is that, customers are doing a great deal of research online before they're even willing to talk to a salesperson, right? So it makes it a little bit more difficult to influence the customer as early on in the process as we'd like. But knowing that, we can kind of adapt our sales strategy and methodology to adapt to this. And that's part of the reason for this shift over to leveraging these new tools. So as you start to map out your territory, give some thought to your target accounts and, how they might be structured. What does their org chart look like? Who's responsible for what within the account, right? Who would I go to for a potential HPC opportunity, or maybe an open source database opportunity, or maybe it's a storage opportunity? Who would be responsible for making those types of decisions? And who would be feeling the pain from shortcomings of maybe some things that they might be doing today that, could benefit from some process improvement, right? So start to think about, who could help you broker discussion in the account? Who are the gatekeepers? Who has a vested interest in helping you to alleviate some of these challenges? Where might they lie in the company? Who are your friendlies? Who might be potential adversaries? Just give some thought to this early on, and this will help you down the road. So for this example, I chose ANSYS. ANSYS is a high-performance computing CAE software company that I wanted to reach out to in regards to running their software on power servers, right? So in order to get to the right people within the account, I first started with adding myself to their user group and following the company, which then all of a sudden, gives me the 26,000, second and third line connections within the company of potential candidates of folks I could reach out to. So one of the key things that I do is conducting many searches on different keywords, and I could try to organize those and then follow up, a week or two later with similar searches, because what you'll find is as you add more connections on LinkedIn, the results you get by doing the same search later will generate different contacts that you didn't get to see before. So again, think back to the org chart and think about some of the other people in the account that might help you to get in touch with the folks that you need to reach out to in order to, start an exploratory business discussion. Again, so in about a week or so, possibly 2 weeks, most of the people that you send an invite to will either accept or reject it. At that time, kind of go back and check up to see who did accept. You do follow-up searches with, similar search criteria as what you did before. Keep in mind that initially what you're doing is building a Rolodex of people that you could potentially reach out to, because the idea is that once you get rolling, that you have enough contacts that you can maintain some momentum in the account to help push discussions forward. So here's an example of a chief product officer at ANSYS who I reached out to via email and just basically explained that I wanted to start an exploratory business discussion in regards to running on IBM Power servers. Obviously, he knew that I was interested in what performance gains might be had, and this helped to start a dialogue, which ended up leading to some significant results. So, think back and keep in mind that whatever your searches are, it may vary depending on what you're trying to sell or who you're trying to target, what market vertical you might be operating in. But for this example, I started to think about what IBM customers am I working with today that are using this ISV software. So for this example, ANSYS makes a software product called Fluent. I happen to know that Boeing uses Fluent pretty heavily. So then I started to think about, what customers from Boeing am I working with today would have a vested interest in running Fluent on IBM Power servers. This is just a good way to start to get the ball rolling. And, keep in mind and be open-minded here. Things will vary a bit depending on what you're trying to do, but this just kind of gives you a framework of how you can start to conduct these searches. So again, I recommend that people think outside the box. Start to look up lists of your top competitors. Follow industry publications. Following user groups on LinkedIn is huge because it connects you to a much broader spectrum of potential clients. Follow fast-growing companies. Take a look at who are the leaders in your market vertical, right? Who are the key influencers in that arena? What are some of the hot competitive offerings that are really taking off in that arena? What are some of the pain points associated with customers in this area? What kind of challenges are they having? And by thinking about this ahead of time, you can kind of plan for things that a customer is likely going to want to hear from you. And one of the things that I like to do in sending out LinkedIn invites is adding just a quick personal note to explain to the contact, how you found them, why you're interested in connecting, and, what your goals are, right? That way it seems a little bit more personal. It doesn't seem like spam. It doesn't seem canned. And it helps the person understand, what your intentions are. So here at the bottom, I have an example of a note that I might send out to a potential contact. And, something to keep in mind is do not be shy about sending out LinkedIn invites. Building your network is incredibly powerful, not just for you today for your sales efforts, but also, in networking and down the road. So again, check up on your connections fairly regularly. I like to keep tabs on how many connections I have, how many followers I have, who's accepting my invites, and I like to spend some time thinking about how I can leverage those connections to get in touch with key folks in various areas of the business that you may not otherwise have a line of sight to. Another thing I like to do is periodically export my entire contact list out of LinkedIn and organize it a bit. What this allows for you to do is, in Excel, put filters at the top so you can start to scroll through. Like maybe you want to find someone who, customers who work at Visa. And then you can kind of analyze what job titles and connections you have, centered just around Visa. Now, something you'll notice is that when you export your entire list, it's going to also export the personal email addresses of each one of these contacts. Now, these personal email addresses are the email addresses that the candidate used when they were signing up for LinkedIn. So I personally use my IBM email address on LinkedIn, but not everybody uses a real work email address. I have had some success in sending work, related emails to somebody's personal email address, but as a general statement, and knowing that we have Google Chrome Email Hunter, I would try to avoid it, unless you have no other, fallback plan. So another thing to consider is your profile. So, very much the same as, customers do research on products and services and new offerings to the market before they even talk to the salesperson. The same way, the potential customer is going to look at you and try to understand what value you bring to the table before they decide to commit to responding to your email or maybe talking to you on the phone or taking a face-to-face meeting with you. So give some thought to how you would be perceived by a customer. Do you come off as an expert? Do you come off as somebody that could potentially bring value? It's important to manage these perceptions because that'll really help your penetration and ability to set up new meetings. The other thing that's key is making sure that your job title is up to date, that it's clear and concise as to what you do for your company. Another key thing to take a look at is the summary and experience sections of your LinkedIn profile need to be up to date. They need to be reflective of the types of things that you do for your company. And something that's important, and here's an example of that, is also in the summary or executive summary, kind of outlining the value that you could potentially bring to the customer. So here's a great example from an IBM executive on their LinkedIn profile, and I just love this. So just give some thought to how you might want to present yourself because customers certainly will. Now moving along, I highly recommend that you periodically author some articles and post them on your LinkedIn page. Reason being is that it helps with your followers. It helps establish credibility that you're a subject matter expert, that you really know your stuff, that you can bring value. And another additional point that I'd like to bring forward is that by creating some of your own content, you can now recycle this to many, many customers, right? It could be around the world. It could be many customers in your market vertical. I've got a lot of mileage out of these types of articles, And frankly, my colleagues at IBM will sometimes share them with their customers as well. So it's a good way to help kind of open doors. Now keep in mind, and you might already know this, that anytime you share things in your network, you're kind of expanding your reach and the number of people that potentially see your stuff, right? It's all somewhat interconnected. So another thing to think about is writing things that are somewhat provocative. So I published this last year, and it was funny. I've gotten almost 1,000 views on this article from my page, and there was an incredible number of Oracle vice presidents that visited my page just because of the provocative title that I posted here. So think about that. So if you write provocative titles that would intrigue a customer, you're more likely to get a door open that way. And sometimes in your introductory email, you can include links to articles that you've authored, and that gives the customer a quick view of the types of things that you might be interested in discussing with them. So again, what are some of the things that you can create yourself with little or no money? Well, short videos, right? These can be hosted from YouTube, Google Drive. Say it's a presentation, these can be hosted from SlideShare, Box, again, Google Drive. You have a lot of different options available. You can also build some of your own infographics, build some of your own charts. Certainly, recycling good PowerPoint presentations is key. As long as it doesn't have any IBM confidential information, there's no reason why you can't send it out online and share it with not only your followers and connections on LinkedIn, but also new potential customers. So let me give you an example of a short video that one of my colleagues made from the storage brand. And he literally just wrote the script and recorded himself reading it and had it animated. Now keep in mind, you don't have to animate your videos. It could just be a WebEx video. It could literally be something you record at home with a camcorder. But any of this type of content is generally well received from customers. And this particular video opened up millions and millions and millions of dollars of sales for this sales exec for a mere $200 investment.
The short exit strategy. How would you describe or characterize your current storage infrastructure? Organizations like yours typically have a single vendor. Let's say you have a single vendor, like say EMC, okay? Well, the fact is it doesn't matter whose storage you're using today. Think about this for a second. Every storage vendor, EMC, HP, IBM, NetApp, others, do the same thing. We fiddle with your data. It's a technical term. We all have data services, mirroring, replication, etc. How we do it is our unique value. My question to you is, how will you get to the next great thing? Whatever it may be from whomever may create it. Could be existing IBM, EMC, etc., a startup, or someone completely off of the radar. How will you get there? We've all bought technologies that at the time made good business sense. Fast forward a few years, and they don't. What do? Change. But how? Sometimes you can build a bridge and come straight across. Most times you have to back up and start over from the very beginning. Everything we've invested has been lost. For example, if you can speak Spanish, do you know French? Can you speak Italian? What about Portuguese? They're all Romance languages based on Latin, but bonjour is very different than buenos dias, isn't it? Well, what if I could insert a language translator? So when someone speaks their native language, you understand it in yours. What if I could do that to your storage infrastructure? Bring in a translator where you move the data services, all the data services from every vendor. If I did that, I'll do 3 things for you. Number 1, I'll mitigate your skills gap. Do it one way. Secondly, I'll slash your cost of services delivered because services are delivered one way. Analysts say that if you cut your cost by 30% by introducing a second vendor, I can double utilization rates of your existing storage assets. You buy data services based on capacity, not the box. Our real-time compression can double the capacity in the same physical footprint. Finally, you'll have an exit strategy that's validated. A client told me he used my stuff to get off my stuff onto the competition stuff. It was simple and effective. Now the competition will tell you how easy it is to get onto their stuff, but won't tell you how hard it is to get off. They want to sweep the floor. Me, on the other hand, I'm talking about a couple of 2U appliances in your existing environment. It's been in production for more than 10 years and over 9,000 clients worldwide. Only IBM has it, can prove it, more importantly, works every day to earn your business, knowing you can use it to go elsewhere. Now that's an exit strategy.
So thank you for watching that video. Now, one key point that I wanted to highlight is I love the way the sales rep approached the customer in that he didn't mention product names. He talked about challenges that he anticipated the customer was likely to have. He mentioned his experience in working with another customer that was having some similar challenges. And he did a very good job of making himself relatable. I think that's incredibly important as we switch to more of a digital age where we have to adapt to changing buying patterns and trends in our customer base. Now, moving along, I think it's important to also follow who's responding to your content that you put online. So, who's liking it, who's sharing it, who's retweeting it. So here's an example. We have Paulo, we have Doug, Kinetica CEO. Just a handful of folks that followed up on an article that I wrote. And it's just good to keep tabs on who's following, especially if you have customers that are liking or sharing your content. That might be a good reason of call. Moving along, I like to share current industry news from credible sources, with my network. People start to follow you more and more as they see you as being an expert and somebody that shares good quality content that they're actually interested in reading. This also helps build credibility for you as a salesperson. Now, here's an example of a chart that I posted that got 1,400 views in a day. That's pretty good. Everyone, not necessarily every piece of content that you post will have that many, but the important thing is that people are viewing your content, that they're checking out your page, that they are evaluating you and positioning you as an expert in their mind, because that really helps open doors down the road. Certainly don't hesitate to share, good articles. We mentioned earlier, look for influencers in your market vertical. People that are kind of thought leaders. Certainly don't hesitate to share content that would be relevant to those types of customers. And again, sharing good, high-quality content is a good way to help build mind share. So again, nothing lasts forever. Here's an example of a chart of how many views I had for some piece of content that I put out in the last 7 days. And as you can see with this peak, it basically trended for 2 days and then dropped off. So the net here is that keep posting new content, stay at it, just keep a fairly steady flow, and you'll find that your followers pick up rather quickly. Again, repetition is the key to success. Be sure to rerun some of the same searches that you did on your target, a week or maybe 2 weeks after your first blast. Again, think back to the think outside the box slide. Think about things that you could do a little bit differently. Certainly incorporate any research that you might be conducting on Google, or research you might be conducting via industry publications, or maybe some internal IBM tools such as Bluemind or others. So take a quick break for any questions, comments, concerns. Moving right along, I'm going to breeze through a quick example of a federal credit union and how it reached out to a potential candidate at the request of one of my colleagues. So for this example, we were working on tracking down Ron, but the offering that my colleague wanted to put forth was not specific just to his credit union, but rather many credit unions across the United States, knowing that they had a lot of similar challenges and that the solution that he was positioning would probably resonate with these types of folks. So when I went to add Ron, you'll see that have a handful of options available. Sometimes the connect button is not readily available, so what you'll have to do is hit the drop-down menu, and you'll notice it's hidden second from the top right there. Now, you'll have a few options. You know, if you're not closely associated with the contact, you're going to have to check one of these options. So if you say other or you don't know Ron, then automatically your invite's not going to go out. So the only options you have are friend, we've done business together, classmate, or colleague. If you click colleague or classmates, they're going to ask, you know, what school did you go to together, or what company did you work at together. You can certainly do, we've done business together, but I always feel a little wary of doing that for customers, simply because it implies that you're going to try to sell them something as soon as they accept. And that may not be, you know, the image you want to put forth. Now, moving along, you know, after you sent the invite, maybe you can go back to their page, and you'll notice on the right side a list of people also viewed or similar types of customers. You can literally just go through these types of lists and add folks from these other, you know, credit unions in this case, because these could be other potential candidates that would be interested in the product offering that you're wanting to bring forth. Again, add yourself to user groups. Harvard Business Review is a great one. You know, industry or market related groups, specialty groups, maybe even competitive product user groups can be key, because it gives you a nice list of folks that you can now reach out to that could be great potential clients. Now, if you happen to have a license for LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you have some advanced search options available to you. Also, you don't necessarily have to save somebody as or send out a formal contact. You can rather save them as a lead and kind of manage those lists accordingly. Again, Google searches are always key. Sometimes you can find some very relevant information online by doing just a little bit of digging. So here's an example of some additional information I found out about Ron just by doing a few Google searches. And again, you know, found a contact that works for Ron, you know, just again by doing some additional Google searches. Real quick, want to breeze through this, but email templates are key. You can't necessarily write a fully customized email for every single contact, but what I would highly recommend that you do is come up with a framework of what you want to say or what you want to accomplish in that note, and then kind of fill in the gaps with a few custom pieces based on the information you found out about that particular customer from HT data, from information that they've posted about themselves on LinkedIn, or information that you might have been able to uncover online. This will make your email much more relevant and seem personalized and specific, as opposed to canned and, you know, coming off as just being, you know, spam. Now, here's a few other ideas I wanted to include you might want to think about when using email templates. I'm not going to bother to read through all this, but hopefully this will help jog your memory as to, you know, things that you might want to do a bit differently when you start to dig in and prospect. Again, you don't always want to use a template. Sometimes it'll seem too canned. You know, you certainly should not use it as a way to cut corners because that'll kind of show through to the customer. You know, I'd certainly recommend also including some of your own writing style and personality in your writing because, again, it'll seem less robotic and canned and kind of spammy, right? Because that's the opposite of what we want to do here, right? We're really looking to try to initiate exploratory business discussions and kind of establish yourself as a consultative salesperson that can help the customer understand the options that are available to them in the market and how you could potentially you know, save them time, money, energy, effort, and what have you. So again, here's some best practices to keep in mind as you start to do some prospecting. You know, please just read through these real quick, and certainly don't hesitate to refer back to them as you get started. So here's a great example of an email that I got from a brand new connection on LinkedIn. So Josh reached out to me. I didn't know Josh, but he had a very professional looking profile. He had good work experience. I don't work in the same industry, but networking is always a good thing, so I added Josh. And I'd say within the next day or two, I got this email from him, and I thought, this is a nice, concise note that explains what he does, how he can help, and he's put himself out here. He's got his contact information in case I need to reach out to him. Now, I don't happen to work in this industry, but I just thought this was kind of a nice personal touch for a brand new contact. So don't hesitate to do something similar to this, as related to your sales efforts. So again, in talking about email templates and kind of crafting your messaging, tying in certain aspects that are relevant to their specific job or things that they said about themselves online or in blogs or on LinkedIn will really help you customize your messaging to make it that much more impactful. And frankly, the customer will know that you are a real sales professional and that you have a legitimate interest in in helping. I think that makes a world of difference. So as we touched on earlier, the way that we reach out to prospects has changed. Back in 2007, it took an average of 8 phone calls, cold calls that is, to get a customer on the phone. And even once you did that, you didn't necessarily know if you caught them at a good time, if they were busy, but it was pretty tough. Now today, it takes more than 15 calls in order to reach a potential customer via cold call. So, and even then, customers are busier and they're not as likely to take cold calls as maybe they were in the past. And what we'll find is that, even having, a big, company name on your business card doesn't open doors the way that it used to. Now there's so many new small companies and, bright and shiny things out there that, customers are spread relatively thin. And frankly, doing research on new solutions in the market is almost a full-time job in and of itself. So for that reason, HG Focus, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Google Chrome Email Hunter make you kind of stand out from the pack. So real quick, I'm going to run through a Coca-Cola example of how you can use these tools to get a conversation going with the customer. Now, for this particular example, I'm going to be discussing SAP HANA. Keep in mind, this can be any product that you happen to be selling. So don't limit yourself to the content that you see here. Try to think outside the box. The first thing I did, I went up to the Coca-Cola website, and if you see here in the top right, the little wave icon, that's the HG Data app downloaded to Google Chrome, and basically click the drop-down menu. Now you see a few things here. If you scroll through the whole list, it's actually quite long. But I started to do some research on which SAP software products they're currently running in-house, so I have an understanding of how to position myself as I start to have some customer dialogue. So in Sales Navigator, I started to do some searches. And what you need to do is start spending some time thinking about how you want to apply these search criteria. Is it based on company? Is it based on job title? Is it based on people that had key buzzwords, somewhere in their profile? There's a lot of different creative ways that you can start to target customers that will ultimately have either influence or decision-making capabilities around the solution that you're trying to sell. So again, here's just another example of, running a slightly different filter. Now, I came across Marcus, and based on the information I saw on his LinkedIn page, it kind of gave me an understanding of the types of things that he's likely to be doing. Now, I personally covered Coca-Cola a number of years back and fairly familiar with them, but I don't necessarily, know all the customers in the account, as most of us don't. So I sent Marcus a note, kind of outlined why I reached out to them, what I'm interested in talking to them about, and then included a link to an authored post that I put on LinkedIn that kind of walked through some really compelling information about why a customer should consider running SAP HANA on IBM Power Servers. Well, Marcus saw that I'd put in some time, and it was a very targeted message, and that this was not just spam, and he responded, and sent me, directed me, I should say, towards the folks that run the DI landscape. Now, this is important for me because I know some folks on the DI side. I just wasn't necessarily sure which business, which line of business I should be reaching out to. So now Marcus has directed me to the folks that I need to go to start to have exploratory business conversations. And I can certainly leverage, my conversation with Marcus here as my reason to call. Again, going back to Google Chrome Email Hunter, what you'll notice is once you've downloaded the app, you'll notice the tiny bullseye app on the top right. That's the Email Hunter app. Now you'll notice that the tie-ins and the plugins into LinkedIn will add a small orange box under the potential candidate or client name, and that will be the box that you click to run the Google Analytics. And the result you'll get will be something similar to this, which is a real work email address along with a confidence interval that Google provides as to how confident Google is that this is the actual email address. Now, certainly, something I can't stress enough is organize your contacts and organize the key people you plan on reaching out to. This will save you a lot of time and energy down the road just by applying some organization. Plus, if you end up reaching out to, say, these same customers later with a different product offering, you've already got this structured and organized, which will help streamline that process and save you an awful lot of time. Now, keep in mind we have a lot of different tools available to help host content online. This example is SlideShare. I leverage SlideShare, the YouTube channel, Box account, Google Drive. There's a variety of different ways that you can host your content online and share it with customers, particularly if they're files that are too large to email. Sending a link is a great option. One nice thing about SlideShare is it actually shows the number of views and the number of downloads that you got. So that kind of helps you to understand, as you send out links to customers, how many actually, clicked on the link that you sent. And again, if you organize your contacts very neatly, you'll find that you're able to reach out to an awful lot of customers very quickly. So here's an example of you're reaching out to over, 20 customers in well under 20 minutes. So again, take a moment for any questions, comments, concerns. So very briefly, I want to run through an HPC offering. This example would be Kinetica. Take some time to understand what solutions you're going to be offering and how it's relevant to the customer. So, before you start searching, give some thought to, which of these pain points are going to be relevant to certain customers. What things are most applicable? What things are they running in-house already that are going to be complemented by adding Kinetica to the mix? Coming up with this kind of content in advance will help the customer to understand, why they should take the time to talk to you. Again, understand your target audience, have an understanding of what that customer profile might kind of look and feel like. This is going to help make your sales effort much more impactful. Again, give some thought to pain points, give some thought to industry trends, give a thought to how you might be able to optimize things that they're doing today, mitigate their skills gap, or maybe touch on some initiatives that they either haven't started yet or have tried in the past and failed. Again, having understanding of the key solution overview and being able to put your own spin on the elevator pitch is critical. Understanding those customer pain points, again, is key to tailoring your messaging to be as impactful as possible. And again, kind of validating the potential fit for that customer in advance will help to open new doors. Now, I'd just like to take just a moment to run you through an example video. And this is the type of content that you can easily create yourself for free and send out to customers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wes Shofity. I'm an open source database and high-performance computing strategist for North America. Today, I'd like to take just a couple minutes to introduce you to a brand new solution called Kinetica. Kinetica runs on IBM Power servers coupled with NVIDIA GPUs and NVLink to provide unparalleled performance. This is an absolute game changer and something you definitely need to talk to your customers about. So in this quick presentation, what I'm going to cover is what is a solution, where do I pitch it, who cares, how does it work, and why do I pitch it? So to start off, Kinetica is a GPU-accelerated in-memory database solution that tackles database processing in a whole new way that provides unparalleled performance at a fraction of the price of traditional databases. Where do I pitch it? To retail customers, customers that are interested in business intelligence and high-performance analytics, customers that are in distribution or logistics or supply chain management, customers that offer financial services, customers that are in ad tech. Next question, who cares? You should. The average deal size is north of $500,000, yet it saves your customers many, many millions of dollars. It's a very compelling offering. Who else cares? Your customers who want to save money, your customers who need more flexibility, your customers who currently are suffering from performance challenges, and customers that need help to meet their SLAs. How does Kinetica work? Well, Kinetica leverages NVIDIA GPUs and NVLink to turn an LC model power server into a small supercomputer. This is a capability that x86 solutions just don't have and cannot keep up with. This is a real game changer. Why do I pitch it? Well, to be a thought leader for your customer, to change the game, and to disrupt the market. Now I'm going to take a moment to go over a 30-second elevator pitch on Kinetica.
Tired of overplaying for slow and complex databases? Thanks to GPU acceleration, you no longer need to buy piles of servers and suffer challenging development to achieve speed of thought insights. Kinetica dramatically accelerates your access to data. We provide an in-memory database that helps you ingest, process, and visualize your data freaky fast, allowing quicker data-driven decisions with a fraction of the hardware and development. Speak with a specialist today.
Now, moving on. Here's a high-level overview of the Kinetica offering. Now take a minute to drink all this information in. I know it's a lot to digest all at once, but basically, this is an Oracle killer. If you're unsure what various database solutions your customers might be using today, reach out to me, Wes Shofity, and I'll show you some new free tools and applications to look up information on your customer software stack. I can help you develop a game plan and an attack plan and help you execute that to drive sales in your territory. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Good luck and good selling.
And moving on, I'd just like to thank everybody for attending this education session. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to help. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and conclude this session. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.